It's a bit like the reverse of the presidency, you know. You want to stand for president, you must take off suddenly. I am non-partisan. And then this one is, I better get out of parliament because I am going to be partisan. I'm like, okay. PAP, you don't want to paralyze the government. But you also don't want one group of people able to push through everything. I'm sure people will be very unhappy with me, but I will say this. I think the mosquito party should all just go away. You know, I mean... Some of them it is already the case in the past few elections that you are not gaining traction. You know, so what are you trying to do?
So if you're into this podcast, chances are you're all about those deep, meaningful conversations. But what if you could take that to the next level? Imagine a podcast that's super personal, like all about someone special in your life. Their stories, their memories, their voice. That's exactly what we do at Folklory. Here's the deal. You tell us who the podcast is for, and we set up a 30-minute call with someone who knows them best. Maybe it's you, a family member, or a close friend. We handle the interview, and boom, within a week, you've got a studio-quality podcast that's basically a time capsule of their life. And believe me, it hits different. Just ask Brendan Lee, who dropped this Folklory on his wife for Valentine's Day. His words? She loved it, said it was the best gift ever, and she has gotten some pretty good gifts before. So if you'd like to create something special too, check us out at folklory.com. The link's in the show notes, and we'd love to chat. Now, on to the podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yah Lah, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yes.
Going to be talking about a lot of things in the news today.
Correct.
But with a special guest.
Yeah, someone who's... she actually is like sometimes the center of these news topics.
Yeah, correct.
Surprisingly, she just pulls these things out of her head that we never knew existed, and then it becomes a huge story for everyone.
Yeah, a story which we covered a lot.
Yeah.
So it's great to have for the second time back on Yah Lah BUT, Bertha Henson. Welcome back, Bertha.
Thank you.
Yeah. But now must be the season that you're like, you wake up every morning and you can't wait to get out of bed, right? Because
not until like that.
So much going on. The GE season, I'm saying, like it's in your blood to want to
I am
cover
very
things.
exercised by it. Yes.
Yeah. But what is that? What difference is it from like normal periods without elections?
Peacetime.
No, basically, I've always observed and covered politics so much, and I was just telling Harish that there's so much I want to say about it because I've covered it for so long. So there's so much I know.
Yeah.
And when people say things and they don't remember this and don't remember that, I get so jialat, I must tell you how this happened or, this thing has happened and you don't remember and all that sort of things. So it gets very irritating for me sometimes reading about political news and the GE reports. Like, for example, whenever I read the constituency reports, the
EBRC report.
What's happening in Singh, now it's very vogue, right? The mainstream media is doing it. I get so irritated.
Oh, really?
Why?
Because in the past, we didn't do it like that. Because, we had a lot more facts. It's not just tell you number of blocks, not just that, number of voters. It tells you things like, how long is the Meet the People session, how many people go there, what the residents bring up. We look at town council reports, what the town council reports say, how much do they charge, SNC. We had this kind of more data, political data, and then we make sure we corner whoever it is down there. So it's not just a swift 20-man interview with men in the street, and then we pull out everything that's been written on the internet, and then we patch it together with a few quotes. Oh, come on. It can't be like that. You really need ground reporting. Right now, this reliance on internet. Hey, by the way, my time, I got no internet. Every time you need to go and jalan.
Do they go on the ground to these MPS sessions to actually?
I have no idea. I don't know.
And no ChatGPT also, so you can't just ask.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right?
I remember I go back a few times to a certain place because I didn't get the property prices, the increase in property prices. Oh my God, it was really supposed to be so deep.
Yeah.
And you know what's the problem? We didn't even get to run it because elections were called. So in those days, when it was swift, you really a lot of things you can't report.
Because
the rate of election is out. And then you are busy, the news cycle gets to you. Yeah.
But do you think people online, when they read your comments and you say, oh, I know this, they might not understand your experience? Because or the fact that the things that you're talking about, that people are talking about now, could be based on articles you actually wrote in previous times, which people might not be aware of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there was this crazy one when I think Hazel Hua, the PSP was doing the election boundaries, and they had a motion in Parliament to discuss that. And I remember after that, the question about whether there's gerrymandering, whether anything is politically motivated, right? And then somebody I saw online said that, of course it is. You don't remember Goh Chok Tong carved out McPherson for Chee Soon Juan. And then, the other side said, no such thing. What are your sources? They said, oh, Wikipedia, you trust Wikipedia. I'm looking at it all. I get so fed up. So I just responded and I said, yes, it's true. Then someone said, who's your source? I said, the source is me. And then, of course, all got a bit flabbergasted, right? I said, yeah, I wrote the damn story. I reported it. I interviewed the Prime Minister then, So it was like, sometimes, you don't know things. And you can go into the past a bit and, dig some things out. But then if you don't know what you don't know, how are you going to dig?
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
So is that a motivation that keeps you wanting to be vocal about things like this? Because you almost feel like there is the knowledge of the past is kind of lost?
Agree. I think so. Sometimes it's like, why are we so ignorant about some things that have happened? I mean, today you read the Mothership article on, what's his name? Joshua, right?
Yeah, right.
Joshua Raj,
ex-NMP,
right? Yeah. I'm supposed to be writing about it this morning, but I'm here with you.
Sure,
Great.
fantastic.
And I mean, a lot has been said about nominated MPs, right? I mean, when they first resigned, the two of them, right?
But sorry, just to clarify first, it's the whole story is about these two nominated MPs who now have resigned from their posts before the end of their term.
Yes.
And there's word on the ground that they might be running.
It's already out.
It's already out that they're running.
Mothership
it's not out that they're running.
I don't think
it was a bit ambiguous.
That is the problem, right? So basically, it's like, are you running for a PAP? Well, it all depends. I mean, to me, it just shows you, right?
Yeah.
It's so politician-like or partisan politician. It depends on the Prime Minister. And that's what he's saying. And he says, don't get fixated by Joshua Raj.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, can you, be just say yes or no, but then you can't say yes or no because you're now part of a party.
Yeah.
So it just shows you, right? I mean, if he were an independent, neutral person, probably can say yes or no. But now depends on.
But what do you think of the defense that he put out, saying that it made sense for him to retire as an NMP because he was no longer bipartisan? He felt himself.
Okay, I tell you, my take is a bit different.
Okay.
My take is, what is the PAP thinking? I mean, I've been there since its inception. That's how dinosaur.
The program of the NMP.
Way from the very beginning. What is the PAP thinking? When he wanted to put it up, the NMP, they face objections from their own MPs. So much so that it was supposed to be a tentative institution. It's something that every parliament had to decide whether I want NMPs in the house. Then it became part of the system. Then it became part of the constitution.
Yeah.
And then you expand, make it sectorial representation, right? And then you gave powers that are almost as close as an elected MP, right? Over the years, you keep drumming this thing about non-partisan, independent, and then, put it in the constitution. The constitution on NMPs is actually a lot more info, then on your elected MPs, no. The elected MPs one is in the Parliamentary Elections Act, not in the Constitution. No. But in the Constitution, it says how many NMPs? I think 9. And these are their powers in the Constitution. Okay? So you go through all that trouble, and then this year you're going to say, welcome.
Yeah.
You try to convince people about the non-partisan nature. Welcome, I'm so glad you have seen the light and come to me.
Yeah.
What are you doing? You have you undid so many years trying to convince people about this institution,
Yeah.
and then you throw it away.
But you mentioned that is what is the PAP doing.
Yeah.
But what about the individual himself choosing to do that? What if the conviction is so strong that he feels like,
Bleeds white, he
I'm
bleeds
like,
white.
I believe everything I hear.
It's very simple. To me, it's this way. You have your personal conviction. Then you have an institution. All depends lah. Which one you think is more important to you?
Yeah.
Or would you want to protect an institution that has been developed over the years through much trouble? Or do you think, wow, now I want to go and serve?
Yeah.
And hello, excuse me, you've been in an NMP for 2 terms, no? Could have always quit after first term.
True.
But now you quit before budget.
Yeah.
Hello, the most important debate in Parliament, and you quit before it, and you say, oh, I can't see how I can be non-partisan. You suddenly became partisan.
Yeah.
This non-partisan thing is really getting to me. I mean, it's a bit like the reverse of the presidency, You want to stand for president, you must take off suddenly. I am non-partisan. And then, I mean...
Reverse.
Yeah. And then this one is, I better get out of Parliament because I am going to be partisan. I'm like, okay, I know the Constitution doesn't say you need to be.
Sure.
You have to be non-partisan. It just is independent.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we all know what that means.
But does that mean that you're giving more grief to the PAP side of things or the individual NMP in this?
I don't know.
process?
I just don't think you're doing any good anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a mockery of the system when it feels like it's a stepping stone to networking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think the PP should just say, "Can you guys go stay put?"
Yeah,
Even
too.
if you
Wait
very
till
much
the end
like
of the term
us, just stay put.
Yeah. But would you say anything different if they were doing it to step down and then run for opposition? An opposition party. Same thing. Huh?
So I mean, now that we are in the lead up to the next elections, you also wrote a book about the GE2020 election. So given there was COVID, but what are the big differences you see in this stage of like leading up to the election?
Oh, I think this is far more exciting. I mean, that one was quite sudden, I think.
And there was COVID, and the world was dealing with...
can't go to rallies, and you go look, And I think the PAP wasn't very prepared to be on social media. So that their campaigning wasn't very kilat lah. I mean, now you see, I'm quite sure some of the stuff on TikTok and Instagram, they're all professionally done. So you can see that they're gearing up, and so that's good. I mean, that to me is pretty good. And, it looks like the Forward Singapore report will be his manifesto, whereas after COVID, it seemed like they just wanted to quickly take advantage of COVID and just come out with something. But now it looks like there's a gradual build-up. So, and of course, most interestingly this is a mandate for the Prime Minister and the 4G. So it will be looked at that way too.
Yeah. But what about media coverage side of things? Do you feel the mainstream media has a different role in this GE compared to the
I think they've been far more active.
Or more active?
More active, yes,
Okay.
yes. I mean, they're covering a lot more. But then you see the politicians are also speaking a lot more. Yeah. What I don't like is how the lack of ground reporting, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just report what every politician says, what's the point? I mean, I can get it on social media.
Yeah.
You want to do Facebook reporting? I mean, what extra do you give me? So the value added must be there. What's the value added?
So then even like would the recent EBRC report be an example of where maybe the media could have dissected it a bit more as opposed to just talking about?
I tell you this, I have a regret. I mean, I've covered plenty of EBRC reports. And I don't see some of the things then that I didn't see some of the things then that I see now. maybe it's age lah. We got wiser. Also because I think I've got more time. You know, when you are a journalist, you just get caught up with the news cycle. I mean, every day, another thing. You just want to get it out. So you really don't look at it, you know, very closely.
Yeah.
Now you got time. I can superimpose polling district on top of polling district. I can, you know, do all sorts of things. And then I say, like that. So, you know, it's, I wish I was a lot more, more informed at that point when I was doing the right thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what more have you seen now that you have time to really analyze it? Like, what is the key points that you notice?
Well, you know, the key point is how much it is really the Prime Minister's prerogative to hold the election, draw the boundaries, put the people everywhere and all that. And it's a bit disconcerting. You know, I was telling you just now how the NMP one was enshrined, but not really the elected MPs, right? I mean, I think, I don't know whether I'm correct. So I'm not a constitutional expert. But I think, yes, we have to call elections. And the Constitution says something about GRCs, that there must be GRCs and what things are GRCs. And then, you got to go to Parliamentary Elections Act. And the thing about Parliamentary Elections Act, which I found so strange, is that you have a minimum of 8 SMCs.
Okay.
Minimum of 8. And then, so you know there will always be SMCs, right? And then you say that there must at least 1/4 of your seats, your MPs must come from GRCs. So you have a minimum 8 and at least here.
Yeah.
You know, the variance is so wide because you didn't put a numerical figure to the number of seats anyway. So you have an 8 here and a 1/4 there.
Yeah.
You know, so it's so you can actually do a lot in between. I can have 8 SMCs and 100 GRCs.
Yeah. Or one GRC.
No, one huge GRC. One huge, you know. So things like that. Then, for example, what is the MP to voter ratio? 1 is to 28,500.
Yeah, 28.
Who came out with that magic figure? You know, I don't know, no? I mean, so basically when people say, the EBRC left to do its own thing and all that, but I don't even know the general points, you know, like how many MPs, how do you come out with one MP to 28,000? What is the standard deviation? By the way, the deviation is not in this GRC's report. But I calculated, I think it's about 20%. So you don't tell me that. And then we cling to this thing about population shifts, right? Oh, we have to redraw because population shift and estate. Hey, hello, that's your job lah. How is that an explanation for how you draw boundaries? You know, so it's like, you shouldn't you be telling me some parameters like, we will always, you know, have a deviation of how much. We came out with 28,000 or whatever because... we tried not to mess around with, you know, old boundaries or whatever. You know, you need some parameters so that people can have a grip on it. You know, you know one thing that we have never really found out, and nothing's been said. You know, GRCs, right? You're supposed to have Malay or Indian and others, and they are specific, to constituencies. This one must be Malay. That one must be whatever.
Do you know specific?
It must be specific, yes.
Oh, okay.
Do you know we never told how that comes about? You realize it, no?
Yeah.
You don't know, you know.
I didn't know it was meant to be specific.
It is. You go to one, they will tell you this part is only for.
Was it? I thought there was some requirement for Malay representation, Indian representation, but I didn't know it was at a constituency level. Wow.
Yes, it is. You can't anyhow put an Indian when there's supposed to be a Malay there. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So you see, all these things not explained, right?
Yeah.
We don't know.
I mean, a big part of it is how close the EBRC report is released to the election as well, right? That doesn't give a lot of time for even when journalists and all want to look at it.
No, I think basically that only comes out, I don't know when, writ of election, I think. Only when writ of election comes out, then they tell you where.
Oh, okay.
Okay, this one I'm afraid I'm not sure.
Okay,
So
I
Oh, you
please
mean
check.
the EBRC when it comes out?
No. The EBRC just gives
Yeah.
you the boundaries.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
tell you which GRC, but
Yeah.
they don't tell you which GRC needs a Malay.
I see.
They don't.
I see.
Okay.
So so when it does happen, I'm not sure when that is. I think
see.
it is when the election comes
Oh,
out.
because then the parties who want to contest in GRCs also, especially opposition parties,
Must guess
you
lah.
need to hold your cards lah.
You need to guess a bit lah.
But SMC you can.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's
you
not,
can declare that,
but
right?
there's no problem there.
But there was what you heard some of the people from PAP saying that this EBRC report is more transparent than ever. And we should be grateful.
It is. Right? It is. There are more explanations.
Yeah.
No, there are more words.
Yeah.
There are more words. Okay? So the words distribution is population shifts, which I tell you, I don't need you to tell me that you have to redraw based on population shifts.
Yeah.
The second point is the Prime Minister saying, please keep it about the same. That is mainly the second point. Hello. So you tell me, is that an explanation? When I don't even know why the PM wants to keep it about the same? So, and I was listening to Janil Puthucheary. He says, what's so inappropriate? We increased one SMC and we just did this. Hello? I mean, the EBRC isn't just a numbers game of how many SMCs and GRCs.
Yeah.
It's the way you chop it.
Yeah.
Not just the way you how many pieces you divide. It's how you chop up the pieces as well.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of words. And I suppose we have to be grateful. So sad, that there's a few more words. And they tell me this is ratio to this ratio and this or whatever. But you're not going into the underpinnings of this thing in the first place. I mean, if the last EBRC explained why how it drew then maybe now I can say, oh, okay. So they want the same thing. But
Yeah.
they didn't do that
They
either.
didn't do that.
But I mean, we would love for it to be super transparent and all the data and information out there.
Yes.
But what is the most immediate thing that you would change if you could? What detail would you want to see in the EBRC report that you feel like isn't too onerous, too difficult a change to make? Or just something that you can see in the EBRC report that would make it
Okay, first
much
of all, I
clearer?
want you to state what is the deviation from the mean. Because that was something you did and now you don't.
The deviation of the 28,000 ones to 28,000 voters.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, come on. SMC like Bukit Panjang, biggest, 33,000 voters.
Yeah.
Then I think the smallest is 20-something.
Yeah.
I just imagine the poor bloody candidate running like a headless chicken to get 33,000 voters.
Yeah.
And then the other fellow having an easier
22.
time.
Luck of draw.
And then, and also, the fact is some constituencies are more compact than others. So maybe it need not be 28,000, it could be 30,000.
Yeah.
It's not as though you got to go far to go and get your constituents,
Yeah.
So you could maybe handle more
Yeah.
people, or maybe you should handle less. But somebody has to explain this, So, there's no explanation for that. For example, if you say keep to the average size of GRCs, is what Prime Minister said.
Yeah.
So it'll be 4 and 5 members.
Yeah.
Hello? So if he said something else, please introduce 3-member GRCs. You can also do that.
Yeah.
So it really depends on what he wants. He never said increase the number of single seat wards. But going by the trend, it's usual to give you one, let's say watching grass grow. One. This time one more. Yeah. So basically, I actually don't think that it's a question of, as you say, what can be immediately done with the EBRC. Okay, those little things, deviation or that, can explain a bit. But I happen to think like Kevin Tan, a constitutional lawyer, that we do need an elections commission to redraw this whole thing.
Yeah, he mentioned that in a LinkedIn post, right?
Because this whole thing about equal representation is very important.
Yeah.
Equal representation. Because it means a lot. For example, okay, the courts have said it. They said that, if some member of a GRC quits,
Yeah.
the rest of them take over. But SMC, you must have a by-election.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
but
a bit weird also lah.
yeah, so I'm like, okay. So, shouldn't is that equal representation? I'm not so sure.
Correct.
If you have 4 fellas in parliament representing you instead of 5, that is not equal representation. And then you require all of them to vacate their seats so that you can have an election. So you see, some basic principles must be in place for everything else to follow.
But so we're talking about almost like the process, the transparency of the EBRC report and all. But in terms of how parties should think about it, right? I've talked about this previously where Harish and I were talking about the EBRC report, and I was like, but if a opposition party is worth its salt and it's doing the legwork for 5 years, right? It shouldn't come as a big surprise that there will be changes within the boundaries. And if they have a strategy of like working an area, sort of like, rather than just like, okay, I only carve out certain areas and I hope that they hold it for the election. If they're worth their salt, they should have already seen this coming, right?
Yeah. Have you been able to see some of the boundaries coming? I don't think so. In any case, that might work for opposition party. Parties who only want to contest SMCs. But quite a lot of them were gunning for GRCs. So, so it's not as though they're looking at a small part of Singapore and then want to cultivate it. So you look at it the other way around, they have spent time cultivating a bigger area and then having a part of it sliced away. So, I'm not sure how prepared people can be for that. Now, the only thing is whether or not what is the period between now, EBRC report out, and the writ of election being issued. So this is the time, right, where you can go and, do what you need to do. Those areas where you haven't canvassed or whatever, you have to go and do that. So I'm not so sure what you're getting at because, I think if you ask the PAP MPs, they themselves probably are not too happy too. Really? Suddenly you get pulled out and all that. Hey, this now is the other side.
Thank God middle finger shown in the vicinity.
Oh my God. This middle finger thing. The only reason it's caught on, right, is because we don't see it but it does happen. So, what's the problem?
What happens? You mean people showing the middle finger?
Of course slam the door in your face, throw me and tell you to please go away. This happens during campaigning, not just now.
Oh, so you think the message should be, this is par for the cause?
Yes, exactly. It's par for the cause. It's just that it got caught on camera.
Correct.
It's par for the cause. If I don't want to open my door, I don't open my door. If I tell you I'm not interested in talking to you, I tell you that. So what's the big deal? I really saw no need for Edwin
multiple
Tong
explanations.
I really saw no need. Did you expect that everybody will love you? No, what? So what's the big deal? So to find them getting all defensive to me is like, what the hell?
And I did see that, there was a PAP volunteer who was also embroiled.
Oh my God.
All he did was he just pointed.
He said I was pointing to another table you haven't done. I really don't think, what he should have said is that I wasn't pointing at you to put your camera down. But he didn't say that either. Notice?
Oh, okay.
Because the impact was you are telling the guy who's videoing,
watching you.
Right? But you didn't say that too in your defense. You instead put up another reason why you might be pointing a finger. So I don't know, a lot of finger pointing going on these days.
Middle fingers and all.
And index finger and everything.
But that the way the comms are being done, because that there's, in my mind I would be like, okay, there are many ways to go through any story, be it the finger pointing or be it some of the other sagas. Do you think that, the PAP is being a lot more savvy on social media, but when you see politicians being too savvy on social media, how do you feel about that?
I tell you, a long time ago, when the internet came into being, and then the Prime Minister, Lee Hsien Loong, started going on it. On FB, I really did not like it. Because I always would like my leaders to have a little mystery about them.
Oh, really?
Rather than be too open and I know your every secret, that kind of thing. So now, I guess I'm getting used to it. But I also think that, I mean, if you do an interview and it's a podcast like this, it's perfectly fine. I mean, it's just an interview. But if you have something that is done especially to show you off, which is a political advertisement, right? It's a political advertisement. Then I don't know lah. This is the part where you tell me I don't want to be populist, but you are looking for the popular vote, right? I mean, you know. So I mean, you go on these things to reach people, popular vote, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have mixed feelings, but I do understand that young people lap it up,
Yeah.
and I don't lap it up,
Yeah.
But then how is that different from you being on Facebook? Because I mean, you are a public figure, right? You had a public role for a long time. Couldn't the same be said about you? You know, I prefer Bertha
Be
to
mysterious.
be a bit mysterious. I don't need to
But
know
I'm not a politician. I have no figure. I have nothing to gain and nothing to lose.
Yeah, it's not in her
followers
interest
on
to-
Facebook. You know,
So,
that's the
I mean,
currency.
it's not as though, I mean, you want to follow me, you follow. You don't follow, done. I mean, it's not as though you are going to vote for me. Right? I mean, seriously, I mean, do whatever you want and I will do whatever I want. I don't have, a commitment to my voters or whatever. No. So, hello, I'm afraid you can't quite equate me that way.
Yeah. But actually, since the last time you came on also, right, there have been a couple of, big things that have big pieces of news. Like one was obviously NRIC debacle. But the other one also was Pritam Singh's conviction, right? I mean, just touching on the second one first. We'll go back to NRIC in a bit, I'm sure. But for Pritam Singh's side of things, what's your take on all that? Has that damaged the Workers' Party brand, or has it turned people against, the PAP, or what's your take on that?
I had expected the whole town council saga to affect the Workers' Party brand. That went on for 2 general elections and more. And it didn't, did it?
I think, yeah.
And that was something that should be close to the hearts of his voters because it's about their funds,
Yeah.
So if nothing happened there, right, and this is a case of she lie, I lie, do you not lie?
Yeah.
You really think that will have much impact? I doubt.
But I mean, now with over the past few years, there has been a lot more, presence of social media, snippets. And I think people's opinions of people are being formed more than ever by what they see on social media.
Yeah.
So I think what happened with the town council thing, that almost felt like it was only in the newspapers. It never went into social media.
Okay.
So with Pritam now, there's, him walking to court, being charged, and, waiting for sentencing and all that.
Okay.
Feels a lot more public now. And you still don't think there's any impact?
Well, if it does, then I'll be a bit surprised.
Or maybe even on him as an individual, because the town council...
basically, I think social media can make you very popular or very unpopular. But whether or not that should shift the way you think about someone, that's something I don't know. I mean, I can also say, wow, Pritam, he stepped up damn good, caught on social media immediately. I can say that too. I can say that, he looks very down, walking to the courthouse and that. These are impressions, and I suppose impressions will count in a voter's mind. I hope not. I hope that won't be the case.
I mean, definitely, but in some ways, it's kind of neutered any kind of PR, a lot of PR that he could have done the last few months. I think he couldn't be as public about a lot of things because he was going through the court process and all that, right?
No? Why? He could have said something. What is that?
Maybe it's just sour grapes that we didn't get Pritam on the podcast.
No,
we invite him a lot of times.
I don't think there was any constraint at all.
Oh, really? Okay,
I mean, don't talk about the case lah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you can't talk about something else.
Yeah, I mean, we did see him from the state court walk over to Parliament, join a Parliament session, then go back to state court.
Yeah.
Very public
thing. So I don't.
Okay.
I don't think it'll have much of an impact.
I mean, if anything, I saw that Minister of State Edwin Tong he did a Lee Kuan Yew tribute recently.
I didn't see it. I mean, it was just yesterday or something,
yesterday,
right?
yeah.
And then he did some kind of whoop.
He inserted Pritam Singh's video at the end when Lee Kuan Yew was talking about
I just wish they just
things.
leave the old man alone. Seriously. Leave the old man alone. Yo, I mean, you are 4G leh.
Yeah.
4, no.
Yeah.
But how? Like, if the election is held every 5 years, literally, there'll be that
Oh my
20th
God.
anniversary, 30th
5
anniversary of the
years,
death.
I don't know.
Every 5 years is
Actually,
Coincide with SG70 some more,
wait,
SG80.
then our Founders Memorial when it comes out. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've said before that, I mean, the old man didn't like this in the first place. You know? And basically, if you want to learn from the old man, go and read about him and read what he says. But don't use him as a bargaining chip for or against. You know, now we're very used to pulling out his coat and say, see what he says. He also said this.
Yeah, you hear
he
that
also
a
said
lot,
that.
yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I feel like I go to the tree and then plant some flowers there and then 4D also come out. What?
But speaking of see what he said, right? You know that he had that famous quote about he will get out of his grave.
Yeah. This is it lah.
I mean,
Right?
there are people online who are saying that the state Singapore is in now, like Lee
he
Kuan
better
Yew,
get up.
He better get up, lah. He better. Do you really feel like we're at a stage where we really should be calling for Lee Kuan Yew to come back from the grave or anything?
I think what I would like to see is something that Han Fook Kwang said too in his recent piece. They must give me a new vision, a collective vision I can get behind. Because right now, your vulnerability narrative is being destroyed by your own bureaucratic way of putting things across. I mean, global uncertainties and political shifts and all that. God knows, man. I mean, Lee Kuan Yew would have said it differently. Where we say, you don't buck up, you die. So I don't see something strong coming out from the 4G. In fact, everything is so reassuring. We have your back. We will walk with you. We won't leave you behind. We will do what we can.
Yeah.
I mean, alamak, it's like, okay.
So you want more hard truths?
I want more. I want something harder, Instead, you're trying to tell me it's okay.
But do you
okay.
think people are ready to hear the hard truth?
I think, frankly, even if they're not ready, they should be hearing the hard truth. Because right now, I'm getting a very soft music, from them. And I don't think we should have that. I was reading yesterday, like the Dutch, for example, cut one public holiday. We want to raise them. Of course, I also say,
who doesn't want public holidays?
But then the Dutch cut it to raise output, because they have to think about defending themselves, Ukraine and all that sort of things,
Yeah.
We don't think in those terms, do we? Yeah. So
you think we are all still too much in a bubble?
We're too much in a bubble and we're getting very entitled. You think you can run away from not giving CDC vouchers next time? Hello? And you think people will be happy it's only 800?
Yeah.
When it started with what? $100, $200 in $2 denominations. People will get used to it. That is the thing that worries me. That's why I said some hard truths had better be.
So you think generally the sentiment of like maybe that worry, like what you said, not seeing a vision, not seeing a strong leadership almost, you think it's more now than it was, say, in 2020?
2020, yeah. Wow, 2020 is COVID.
Yeah.
I think
which was also could have been bleak, a lot of bleak sentiments out there,
Yeah, but they handled that okay because I think everybody was going through COVID. I mean,
it was
the whole
uniting
world.
almost. Yeah.
I mean, it's a global phenomenon, right? So I think we handled that well. But now post-COVID, it's even more one. So that's where I think you need to come up with your own ideas, so to speak. I mean, you can't always tell me to be nimble and agile and upgrade my skills.
Yeah.
I can't. They don't have a good story to tell about why you need me.
But isn't this line of like hard truths, strongman politics? Isn't that what the rest of the world is seeing more of? With in the US, if Trump and even
Germany.
more
True.
right-wing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
do we
okay.
want that in Singapore, really?
Hey, hello, Trumpian. We must still have a bit of rule of law. I mean, that still must be it. No, I want to see them be harder, and that is the ruling party. But, I also wouldn't want them to dominate all sectors of life. You know, I mean, I will follow them if they can give me an idea of where we are going, how we're doing it, instead of always trying to mollycoddle me. I don't want that. I don't want that. But maybe that's what other people want.
I mean, I can imagine like certain demographics preferring that, but like this air of like uncertainty. I mean, even we feel it, right? Looking at the global things. But is it something that every generation faces? Because you've been covering politics for quite a while. Previous elections, like in the 90s, in the 80s, was there that same element of like, where is the world heading? Or you think now is more than ever?
Now is more than ever. I mean, don't talk about Indo-China time now. That is quite a whole different ball game already. But I mean, 80s and 90s were very good for us. 90s was
great.
Yeah. So we were boom down, economic growth, double digit and all that. So it was a comfortable period.
Yeah. So then doesn't that justify the uncertainty that even for the leaders, the ministers who say, okay, that lack of a concerted vision, right? Yeah. It is because it is more uncertainty now.
Oh, I'm sorry, man. I elected you to come up with it. You come up with it. It's not a question. I need to think about your circumstances. Hello. You're the politician, no? You tell me.
Yeah.
No, seriously, this is how nice people are. Like you all,
No, because we hear that. And I mean, like, after you hear it many, many, many times, almost you're programmed to think that way. And I think it's like, whenever we keep hearing, Singapore, especially in the media scene, like, Singapore is a small country, you want to make movies, you have to make it in Mandarin because the Singapore market is too small. I hate that kind of stuff. But being in media for so long, there's certain truth to it. But also, I think that is not a good rhetoric to have ingrained in us. So politically, I think now we are hearing it so many times. Every politician that goes on every podcast, they're saying the same thing. It's uncertain. So it's almost, I think people are getting used to it. That, it's uncertain. That's why there's no concerted vision. But what you're saying is that no, like we need something.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, because things are uncertain, we need to be more certain. You don't come and tell me you're just riding the wave of uncertainty along with me.
We're together, Bertha. It's a future compact. It's Singapore. We're all on this wave together.
So we're all uncertain. Then I elect you for what? I mean.
So that sentiment, like how much of it is kind of like impacted also by. Now, I mean, let's go to the NRIC debacle, which was kind of. I mean, when we were covering it, it did feel like, wow, this is a screw up. Does that affect this your perception that there's no concerted vision? Or is that you think it's just a one-off, a small part of government that...
Well, I thought it was a one-off. I mean, I thought it was a glitch.
Yeah.
I tried my level best to get them to fix the glitch. Then I realized that it was maybe not a glitch. Oh my God. Then the only thing that made me think is that, my God, you must be quite out of touch, huh? I mean, if you don't think this is a glitch and it is actually something we wanted to do, just you morons didn't realize that this is the way we should go.
Yeah.
I mean, I was out of touch.
And for people who might still be unaware, I don't think so, but it was your Facebook post that kicked off everything.
Yeah.
Right. So you broke the news.
Broke the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I did.
Yeah.
But actually, I wrote it after I got so angry with, how the feedback was being treated, and then to have it, like, I remember the last line that was given to me in the letter was, this case is now closed. I'm like, I mean, this is before, the whole thing came out to the public eye, We consider this case closed. I'm like, what the,
Yeah.
So that's when I wrote it. Yeah. So, some people say, why can't you be a good citizen and don't say a word? Because this is, I said, I was being a good citizen, but apparently I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But were you surprised by the reaction?
Which reaction?
As in how fast it spread?
Oh, yeah. I was so wow, it was mind-boggling. Totally I was distributing my book around that period, when Mama fell.
Yeah.
Wow, the number of people who came up to say thank you and thank you and thank. I was like, my God, I didn't realize he had so much traction. Yeah, people actually came to thank me. People came to talk to me about it. They were giving their views on what the press conference said, what the government said. I didn't realize it was so big.
So the press, the different parts to it. There was the press conference. There was the clarification in Parliament via speeches from the ministers. Like what? I mean, even through that whole process, I felt not as consistent in terms of messaging that I felt that they were doing. But how do you feel about watching the press conference, seeing essentially two ministers and
three
apologizing?
musketeers. The three musketeers.
Sitting there and apologizing, right? And all.
I tell you, right from the beginning, I knew it had to do with the word mask. Right from the beginning. What is masking? What is unmasking? What is partially masked? Oh, my goodness. Your definition of terms already not very good. Yeah. In fact, after that press conference, still not clear. I mean, I see Indranee Rajah stumbling over mask, unmasked, and partially masked, and whatever. Okay. What my impression, sorry, what's your question?
What do you feel about the press conference and how they handled the communications?
Well, first of all, their first press statement was really crappy lah. The one where they say we were going to do it anyway. That one really crappy. People got really angry with that. The press conference came. I thought can be sooner, but it came at least. So at least, I mean, people got a bit of pound of flesh lah. You have ministers apologizing here and there. And then after that came Parliament questions and then the full report. Right? Yeah. My point about the full report is more political lah. I mean, sure, it was a bureaucratic mix-up, miscoms and all that. But to me, the deeper point, which the report did not go into, and maybe it should not, because it's a civil service report, is how the political messaging was so bad. That was, to me, the key thing.
When you say political, meaning from the office holders.
Yeah. It was so bad. Yeah.
And what was bad about it from?
Well, first of all, you don't tell citizens this is actually not so valuable hawk. After years of saying it is. Yeah. And do you have any idea how much pride people take in their pink IC? I mean, when you say, are you a Singaporean? I hold pink IC. I hold red passport.
That's true.
These are identifiers, So please don't kacau my perception of these identifiers. Now, of course, you can say, your IC is different from your IC number. Hello, you want to split hairs about these things? That's not how people see it. These are things that are sacred to me.
It was quite irritating also. When some people spoke to us, they're like telling us, last time I joined Lucky Draw, I just throw my IC into a bowl and everything. That was like, that's last time but now, like you said, pride, like even when you go NS and all, they ask you to shout your NRIC rank and name, as a key identifier who you are before you like jump off a cliff or abseil down a cliff. So it's a very big part of your identity.
It's a big deal, you see. So then of course, if you try explain it in terms of identification and authentication, alamak, I'm like, oh dear, you cannot lah.
So in your mind, right? Because to me, the more years the government spends in comms and social media, feels like, yes, I know there's a lot of new media, but it feels like their comms sometimes it's mind-boggling, and why do you think that is happening? Like the
I can tell you
the disconnect.
I tell you. Okay, how to say this? If they say things like that, the normal way is for the media to enter the picture. And they say, but don't you think, what? No, and then you will start thinking again.
Yeah. From the politicians' perspective, like they will have to rethink.
They will, sometimes, right, you say something and say, are you sure? Is this what? No, so you're telling me this, right?
Yeah.
Confirm, And then you start thinking, right? and then you start modifying your statement or whatever on the spot, right?
Yeah.
You don't give me a press release and I just bloody run it, right? And if I do ask you questions, and then you may say, okay, can you please add this point? Okay, to answer this question. So there will be changes. So somebody is doing some filtering. So maybe people will say, well, the government screwed up, we should just show it in all its screwed upness. No? But I'm not social media is that way lah. That means, you parrot whatever is bad and you parrot whatever you think is good. You need to have some presence in it as well. So if you think that, hey, this is not on lah, what do you say to people who will say this?
Yeah.
But if you say, run it, and you run it and it's so screwed up, then that's what you get.
I mean, in some way, what you're saying is like by pushing back and challenging, it results in a better overall
comms. Yes, it results in better comms. So like sometimes I ask, yeah, but you remember this or not? That time they said that, oh yeah, and then then the tone will change. It's like a bit of feedback. But okay, if you want to you just tell me what you want to say and I just run. Then you parrot law, just basically tape recorder, just put on and that you think is your job.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
not so sure.
Even between us, if like I have an idea for a video in my mind, it might be great, but when I tell you might say, there's bad lah.
Different perspective.
And it makes me rethink the video idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Which results in a better
so,
video.
So if the whole government thinks one way, but then the whole government wants to talk to somebody and there's an interface of some sort, so somebody is there to say, maybe no, I mean, it's just like one party government lah, right? I mean, now freak elections, all that. People are saying it will be freak elections, opposition wipeout and all that. Two-party system or whatever it is. I mean, I was reading Ong Yi Kang, right? I mean, I like the man. He said about how PAP, you don't want to paralyze the government.
Yeah.
You don't want the government to be paralyzed. So, so you think gridlock lah,
Like the US and like...
Gridlock of some sort. US, ram through already. And
that's true.
wrong.
The previous administration.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, you also don't want paralysis, but you also don't want one group of people able to push through everything. So it cannot be between paralysis and between... go ahead, everything goes kind of thing. So he's right to say there must be an equilibrium, right? I frankly think we need strong government. Yeah. So what is the concept of strong government? I think a strong government means that you remain government with maybe 60-70% of the votes, or 60-70% of the seats. But I would like you to have us to have a substantial opposition for checks and balance, because really, you cannot check and balance yourself. If you check and balance yourself, you wouldn't have come out with that statement on the ICs. Okay?
Yeah.
Somebody would have said, you sure we should put it this way? Somebody would have said something.
Yeah.
So, so I think we need some opposition people to come out and say some things.
So I mean, on that note, like what do you think the opposition needs to do at this point to be as successful as they can be? Because, I mean, EBRC report, the electoral boundaries have been redrawn. There's already a lot for them to do.
Yeah.
But in terms of storytelling, comms, presence...
okay, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I'm sure people will be very unhappy with me, but I will say this.
Yes.
I think the mosquito party should all just go away.
Mosquito party.
The smaller ones.
The smaller opposition.
I mean, some of them I have interviewed in my rookie days, okay? You know how old that is? Okay, so they grow old with me. I retire already, I mean, so, I mean, you're basically muddying the whole picture. If it's already the case in the past few elections that you are not gaining traction.
Yeah.
So what are you trying to do? So leave it to the bigger boys, or go and help the bigger boys do something or whatever, or just stay out of the fray, or go and be an NMP.
But like in the last election, I think Red Dot United was formed because
PSP, it was from PSP, yeah.
because they wanted to contest in an SMC that was going to go uncontested. SMC or GRC?
No.
Against Tarman.
Against Tarman, yeah. In a
Yeah,
GRC,
Jurong.
they went.
And then they formed 3 weeks before the election.
Yes, it was a new party.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
now they're
they're
couple hundred volunteers and all that.
Yeah, they're still going
But so
there.
in that case, do you think that's a benefit that if Tarman was going to, and his GRC were going to run uncontested, at least having some opposition?
Yeah.
Even if it's a new party formed 3 weeks before the election, it's still better than...
So you want all seats contested lah? You are saying that all seats should be contested.
In some way, like what you're saying, for the comms for NRIC, because there was no contest or pushback, it went out very V1.
I see.
Yeah, so would it force GRCs to sharpen their... Otherwise, it's just a walkover. It's a bit easy.
True lah. I mean, I think there should be contests everywhere because it will also keep incumbents on their toes.
Yeah.
Right? I
Like
mean,
mosquitoes lah. Mosquitoes keep you on your toes.
Ayo. But I tell you, mosquitoes should get out when there are bigger fish lah. I mean, don't. I mean, frankly speaking, okay lah. You can stay on. It just makes it more exciting and livelier lah.
Yeah.
But I think you should consider what it means for you lah. Basically, you're not going to get very far.
Yeah.
But okay, if you want to do this public service for me, go ahead. I mean, I remember you talking about fight with Taman, right?
Yeah.
I don't know whether you remember this. Sorry, this old timer. There was one time Workers' Party sent the suicide squad to Ang Mo Kio GRC.
Yeah.
They didn't do badly, I mean, I think
They didn't lose the election deposit.
they didn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
The
sometimes...
one you have to get 20%, is it? No.
so less.
Less.
Yeah. So, so they didn't do too badly, and people were quite surprised, and I mean, that must have given the Prime Minister a bit of a shock. Taman was more popular than him, So, okay, I think these things are all right lah. And then you have a contest, it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah.
So, yes, good, you contest every GRC, but also think about muddying the waters lah. Yeah.
So then what would be like things the bigger parties can do different from
what the bigger parties can do?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm quite gratified that the Workers' Party, the PSP, and even the SDP, even which is not in Parliament, they do have some policy ideas. Of course, they always get shot down, but they seem to be making an effort to think something through.
Yeah.
So that is a damn good start. Of course, so in the past, when the PAP can say you got no idea, now they have to tell you your ideas are bad. But at least for me, the voter, I can compare ideas.
Yeah.
So it's still for me to think through. So I'm very gratified, but they should do more of that. Now, whether or not this works with the voter, the ordinary citizens, I don't know lah.
Yeah.
So, maybe, that one you give a goodie handout, maybe already can lah. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, even when let's say comms, like should they, because right now the PAP is going, they're sending a lot of politicians out on media platforms and all.
Yes.
Do you think opposition should also take that approach as far as possible?
I don't know. I mean, look at how Loh Tia Kiang came in. Totally, wow. I mean, I remember I was in the newsroom and we're like, who the hell is this? So, well, that also shows that working the ground,
Go benefit.
But now with a GRC, a bit harder, I guess.
And now with TikTok and Instagram and the expectation almost, maybe people don't want that mystery anymore.
Really,
They want to... I mean,
people like me are dying out, so okay lah.
But you look at even celebrity culture, right? Last time I remember Michael Jackson was so popular, but you didn't know much about it. Now Taylor Swift, right? People know her relationship, her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want that?
I don't want that, but I think...
Can you imagine we always say that politicians don't want to serve because they like some privacy, right?
Yeah.
And they will never get good people. You want them to go that way and you probably get nobody.
Yeah, I don't like the idea also that there's too much of celebrities or politicians on social media. But I think from their defense or people that we have spoken to and asked like, oh, why is your TikTok account so big? For them, it's getting a message across.
Yes, of course. You get one message across.
Yeah.
1-2 messages across and that's about it. Yeah, I mean, okay, the other thing is you make yourself a bit more likable lah. Right? At least somebody I like. I don't know. I judge them by what they say in Parliament sometimes. The trouble is not many people watch it. I read what they say and all that to see. And from there, I can get a lot more things than from a TikTok video.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
Yeah.
First of all, I know whether they got brains.
So you think there should be more public debates? Like,
the problem with Singapore is this. The only way you get any debate is in Parliament. And for debate outside Parliament, it's practically non-existent. And what you have are forums and dialogues and closed door, whatever, thing kind of thing. You may call that debate, but there's really no real room for anyone to say something that's absolutely different. So, I'm getting tired of, people saying that, we have to wait till Parliament, then we find out. We have to wait till Parliament. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. Even the NRIC saga, right? Have
Wait
to
till
wait
Parliament, you find out.
Yeah.
I'm like, everything you must wait till Parliament. Is that the only place that anybody can say anything, do anything? And then the rest of us just wait.
Parliamentary privilege allows them to,
I don't care. I will. Okay, fine. I mean, there is parliamentary privilege. But I'm also thinking to myself, first, probably not urgent. So you consider a lot of things not urgent. No need to explain. Hopefully you'll keep calm, carry on, and everybody forget.
Because I've seen, I think a lot of people have seen the clips of Vivian Balakrishnan as a student challenging.
Oh, yeah. He's a great debater at my time.
And those sort of forums, those were televised, right?
Yeah, this was university debates.
University debates. But, I'm watching it, I'm like, oh, shit, that's cool that there was a tough question that was asked, but that forum doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
So as I said, we're all very nice people. All very okay.
Singapore is too nice already, Bertha.
I don't know whether it's being too nice or just wanting to be politically correct or simply got no bloody guts.
Not more hard truths. We need,
no guts. Got no guts. No guts. We don't want to rock the boat.
Yeah. But so that's it about the NRIC thing. Do you think that issue will figure in this election? Like, will it be brought up as a big thing?
Really?
That means you started the ball rolling.
Hey, please lah. I shouldn't. The only takeaway I have from that, and I don't know how much it will figure in people's minds during election, is the out of touch thing lah.
Okay.
Like, maybe I'm killing myself here. Like, it's just like the weekend, when I saw what the Tanjong Pagar GRC MPs did with the memorial tree. Okay, I don't know how the rest on the ground thing, but I felt it was out of touch and tone deaf. So I'm thinking to myself, who is doing the comms for? Who is thinking it through? Is this how you want to reach your people and how you want to win friends, influence people? Hello. So that from the NRIC thing, that is what I will take away. The sense that you may not know what is happening. And what people are saying, what people are feeling. The idea that your identity card is not so valuable, your IC number, okay, let's be technically correct. Your IC, you just say IC, is not important, not so valuable. I think this is really a bit way off, To say something like that is way off,
Yeah,
that, for the impact for, say, someone like Joe Teo who was delivering those messages in Parliament.
That poor woman.
Yeah, that one doesn't look good on her,
That poor woman, I know. But what to do? You asked about the media. Budget debate had one query only from Pritam, who did not do much follow-up about the state of the media.
KPIs and all right.
And that was it. And then she goes around saying, we have different ones for different whatever and all that. And nobody asked some very basic questions like, how many years has it been? Right? So, the KPIs can tell me or not by now what they are, But so everything is just so vague. I mean, first of all, they still don't have their articles of association. They don't have any kind of public access to anything, even though they're taking taxpayers' money. So we're reporting only to MDTI. I think it was better in the past, come under public listed. Then, everybody's salary as well, right? Here we go, gaga over Prish Gupta's salary or God knows who else salary, right? The OCBC guy and I God knows who else. And then our ministers, we don't know.
Correct, yeah.
Don't you think we're a weird country?
Yeah.
The relationship between the media and the government is very interesting.
So do you foresee yourself covering a lot of the elections in the run-up? I mean, you recently...
How to cover?
But you recently launched the Chin and Chai
Chin
also.
and Chai.
Chin and Chai.
Okay, Chin and Chai, I've had them for a long time, but it was text format.
Okay.
Right, and basically it was a take on the news of the day. So it was written, and only people who follow the news or follow me can get it.
True.
So I don't have to explain and go backgrounding so much.
And it's two characters having a conversation.
Yes.
Two civil servants.
Two
right?
civil servants, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I thought, maybe I can use them as a teaching tool. And, every year I want to do something different, So last year I had my book, for example. And this year I said, try to make these two fellas educate the population on some things. Keep them informed about some things. So, got it ready, worked with Cheyenne. Got a couple of people interested in helping do some research. And then we just bought a domain name and just put it up there. So it's all pro bono.
I suppose you write the script and
I write
everything,
the script.
And then someone animates it. And then they do the website and everything.
Yeah. I just post on my FB.
Okay.
And then they
I
turn
post
it,
on my Instagram, and it goes up. Yeah.
And they come out how often?
Oh, it's up to us.
Up to you all. Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes we want to do it very fast, we can. But the longer pieces, that one takes time. So I actually have a backlog. I have backlog. But you see, I'm a news person. So I always try and have to recast the thing, right? Because you have a lot of info, but you have to recast to fit what is happening today. So so I look at that lah.
Then somehow when you have to write about news, you have to come on podcast, so you got no time to write and all. Right.
Yeah, I should not come again.
No. I think it's going to be very interesting the next few months.
Yeah.
Anything that you are looking forward to or hoping for that comes out in this election?
Yeah.
This election, I don't know. I would like to see Workers' Party retain their seats.
Okay.
I think the PSP should get at least one seat. Elected, not NCMP. And then we'll see how they perform. I mean, right now we have 10 MPs, 10 opposition MPs in Parliament. So, another 10, we can see how, let's say, 10, 5 plus 4 plus 2, I can't remember. But if we say you got 15 people, then, we see whether or not they do a good job, coming up with policies and asking questions and all that. Then, then we all can all stay back a bit and see, is this good or not? So I think right now it's kind of a watching stage. For me at least, I want to watch and see what they're up to, what they're doing.
Then for voters, what would be one or two things for people to think about as they think
about? I have a template I put out, which I'm going to put out again, about the questions you should ask your MP. Because everybody has a sitting MP. And basically you go and you ask your MP, how many times you were in Parliament? What have you spoken out on? What is the most significant thing that's happened here? Is there anything in the Town Council report that, you think residents should take note of? Probably not. So what are the top issues in this constituency? And then you ask them to fill it up. Yeah. You see, because I think at the end of the day, people may not be able to grapple the concept of gridlock and partisanship and all that. But people can grapple with who are you and what have you done for me lately and what will you do for me. So we can get that who are you done and what have you done for me. So, I would say voters should just go to MPS. But don't disrupt. Just give it to the thing and say, okay, I hope you fill it up and then go off.
But also since you brought it up, what you were saying is that sometimes people need to have some pushback to communicate their message. So when you saw that MPS debacle happen, because on one hand you can understand these are passionate youth who care about something, and like what you said, there's no other forum outside Parliament to have these debates.
Yeah lah, but basically, middle finger or not, it's just cannot lah. They kill themselves with that. And basically, and then you come with masks and you wear prayers. Why wouldn't anyone think you're up to no good? You don't even look as though you came to, first of all, do good. You came like that, So I don't know. I mean, if I wanted to speak, I mean, I've gone to MPS sessions for that. And sometimes even though I raise something, a personal problem or whatever, I do engage in a bit of chit-chat. Right? You know, a while because you know a big long queue. So you can raise it there. You can say, hey, by the way, whatever. You can do that.
You mean things like POFMA lah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because MP, especially if you're a voter, is actually obliged to talk.
Yeah.
So you can get some views across. And then if you say, hey, we should talk some more. Okay, what? We should talk some more later. You know, okay, fix a time, a date. We talk somewhere. I bring some friends. Can what? Or, you know, you just say, I tell you what, you are welcome to come to my house. I'll get all my neighbors in. Why don't people do that? They can do that.
Yeah.
Right? What's the problem? Right? So there are other ways other ways to do these things.
But do you see that as a wave of people who want to go 0 to 100 and they think that...
I know. So it's because there's a lack of what you call civic participation. I mean, what do we have? Our workers are represented by the NTUC. Our grassroots by the PA. You know? And then even consumer groups is case headed by an MP. So, you know, a lot of big avenues are closed off already. You know? Yeah. So, you know, you talk about civic rights. Then you have, aware, maybe one, Singapore, the SIAS people, for investors. And then beyond that, death penalty groups. Hello, already almost like that. Already, you know, so what other real platforms do you have? So they tell you political parties. So again, now you keep everything within.
Have to wait for parliament.
Yeah.
Wait for elections.
Volunteer
and everything.
Yeah. Which is dangerous.
But I did just also following up on that. Like, what do you hope that journalists will do more of this general election? What should they be looking to cover that you feel that is not adequately covered?
Frankly, over the past 2-3 years, what has not been adequately covered is cost of living.
Cost of living.
Yes. Because when you read about cost of living, it's always about your CPI, household expenditure, right? It's all the stats part that's officially produced, right? And then beyond that, you really don't have any ground reporting. Like, for example, you know, GST was raised twice, right? Tell me, have you seen reports on the impact of GST after they raised it first time and second time? Nothing,
Nothing.
So now suddenly everybody knows it's cost of living, but really what has been reported on it? Nothing, you know. So, but instead they're waiting for people to say, here, economy rice store, budget meals. Here, got vending machine for food. Hello, that's not reporting.
So you're saying that the reporters should kind of ask questions related to cost of living in the lead up to election, or you think just in general?
Generally, there's a lack of this reporting. So they report what is easiest. You know, like $1 million HDB flat. Of course, you report because somebody told you. The real estate agent is the one who gives you the press release. You write lah. So I mean, but I don't see them going to that $1 million flat. Even if the fella doesn't want to talk to the neighbors, talk upstairs, talk downstairs, and say, are you also going to sell? What do you think? I don't get it. So, you know, so there's not much value. You get what I mean?
But then during the election itself, like you said there wasn't a lot of on the ground reporting.
Too difficult. You know, the thing is you want to do on the ground reporting, you got to do it now. Because once re-election comes out, the news cycle will be too hectic.
True.
The news cycle will be too hectic. So in fact, actually, if you want to do polling, you better poll now. Because once re-election comes out, you cannot do polling. So is anybody doing it?
You mean the indicative polling lah?
Right? You do now because it hasn't come out yet. You can still do. Got chance.
So the rule is they can't touch it if once the writ of election comes out.
Of course. That's against the law. Now I kena. The time middle ground I go and do, and then I kena stern warning.
And what did you do exactly?
We went and asked people in I don't know which ward lah.
After the writ of election was.
I tell you, I totally forgot. About what sort of MP or something. It's not even a yes, no, but it was in a sense a poll of some sort, right? Kena, man.
Stern warning.
Yeah, we had the stern warning from police. We framed it up and put it in the office.
Oh, really?
Wow.
But I mean, you yourself definitely going to be keeping tabs on the election and sharing your thoughts on
Yeah,
Facebook.
yeah. I will. I can't help it.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, I wish I was still in the newsroom now. You know, I would love to go running. Yeah.
But if people wanted to find out, I mean, if they are not already following you on Facebook, your Facebook page now Chin and Chai, which is its own website and on social media also.
Yes.
So it's on Instagram and TikTok and all.
TikTok bola.
Okay,
Just
Instagram and Facebook.
No, I tell
Chin
you,
and Chai.
what I'm hoping, maybe you help me, is I want to tell all the politicians out there, if you like me to cover, come and tell me, I'll go and cover. Yeah, I will. I have no problem.
PAP or opposition?
Anybody. You send it to me, get in touch with me, I will go and do.
So go and do meaning what? On the ground reporting? Or?
I mean, I go and talk to you lah. Because you see, the trouble is, I can't do on the ground reporting on my own.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you have resources in newsrooms which can, you know. So a bit big take lah. That's why I say if I'm in a newsroom, it'd be quite different. I would say go and get this, and then, you know. A lot of bodies who can go and collect stuff.
True.
Yeah. But you'll call out to anyone, any politician, any candidate who's running, they want to talk to you.
Yeah, get in touch with me. I will talk to you.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
I'll write the full interview.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
And best way to get in touch with you, Facebook.
Anyway, they should know how to get in touch with me lah. Right. I mean,
You know,
as you say, you know your salt. You're worth your salt.
Yeah.
You should know how to get in touch with me. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. And I mean, we have that one segment at the end of every podcast, which is the one Shiok Thing.
Yeah,
the
yeah.
homework.
So I was like thinking, right? Then
You want us to go first or you got ready?
Oh, you all go first. I will
Okay,
hear.
go first.
Okay. You have yours?
Yeah, mine is a Netflix documentary I watched recently. It was called American Murder, Gabby Petito. So there was a case, I think in 2021, of two hikers or two people who were living the van life, like driving cross country in the US. And then they went to, I think, the Grand Teton National Park. And then suddenly they lost contact with the family. And then I think like 10 days later, suddenly the boyfriend was back home with his parents with the van. The girl was nowhere to be found. So her name is Gabby Petito. And this was, I think, I followed the case very closely in 2021. But yeah, this documentary is interesting because they managed to get footage that the girl was shooting of themselves.
Ooh, Blair Witch
during a
Project.
trip. Yeah, they got the footage. They interviewed like her ex-boyfriend she was in touch with and various people that were on the periphery that I didn't know were part of the whole thing. And yeah, it's interesting because you really see how as a parent, you know, like when your child is in trouble or does something wrong, there's two approaches you can take. You know, like you do all your best to protect them or you know, help them cover up the mistakes that they made. And, you know, as a parent, it made me just think of it in a very different way. Like, oh, yeah, I know my son maybe committed a crime, but what do I do from there? You know? So it's a very interesting
So they
moral
explore.
dilemma. They talk to the parents and explore.
It's just like adolescence.
I suppose I haven't
it's the same
seen
thing.
it.
13-year-old, the parents look at the parents, the grief of the parents, and anger.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of that in this documentary that I found, because I followed the news a lot, but I didn't see these aspects of things.
Is it a docu-series or documentary?
Like 3 episodes.
Oh, 3 episodes.
Yeah, very easy watch. Yeah.
Easy. I mean, but not like
I mean, it's very sad when you watch it. It's very sad. Yeah, but because I was following so closely, I was very interested in it. So,
Okay, cool. My one Shiok thing is, I mean, it's a piece of news, but it's almost so ridiculous that you can't believe it's news. It's that thing that we were talking about before the podcast about the Trump administration accidentally texting the war plans to a journalist. And if I were to tell anyone that there was this chat group on a Signal app, which is something like WhatsApp, but a lot more secure apparently, that this person got added to. Like, you know, all of us have gotten added to stupid WhatsApp groups at some point. But turns out it was a WhatsApp group with J.D. Vance, the VP of the US, the Secretary of Defense, I think like some very high officials talking about the bombing of the Houthis in Yemen. And it was an actual group, and it was
and it's operational details.
It is operational details, and it was the editor of the
Atlantic Monthly.
Yeah. And he got added to the group, and it is ridiculous. And I think there were certain quotes, even J.D. Vance said something like, you know, I'm sick and tired of being the apologize
For Europe, is it?
for Europe, not doing their part, and the Pete was like, I completely agree. I'm sick of this Europe, and it just felt like a chat group with friends.
Yeah. And a lot of emojis, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. Yeah,
They were
and
talking about bombing.
muscles and all that.
Yeah, and the reporter himself said at first he thought it was just a weird thing, so he left. But 2 hours later, the bombs actually hit, and he realized. And now the White House has admitted that, it was, but they are playing it off. So that is the second thing that is ridiculously fascinating, that they are almost saying this is not a security breach. There was no confidential info. This is being blown out of proportion.
Oh my God, that sounds familiar. Okay. Never mind.
It sounds, similar.
So has there been an article written about it on The Atlantic?
Yeah. So that's how it broke.
Okay.
The editor himself wrote an article on The Atlantic.
That's crazy. Yeah.
And over the past few days, and you watch it, you look at it, you're like, oh my God. And you hear Trump talking about it. He's siding with his staff, like saying it's a glitch.
Oh,
it's a glitch. So it's like a TV episode of a TV series about comedy administration, like on Veep or something like that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Crazy. It's a bit like you, a journalist who found herself, in the center.
Okay. Enough. enough.
NRIC thing.
Yeah, but that's my one joke thing.
I almost wanted to pull that as well. But then, I go back to something more evergreen. I recommend this book. I have been on a horror book binge for some time.
Horror book.
Yeah. Okay. So to me, the most horrific of horror books is Tender is the Flesh. Augustina Everett, I don't know. It's a very weird name. But really, that book will keep your eyes open until the end. It is. So really the worst, most horrible horror book ever.
What's the premise? What's the premise?
Tender is the flesh.
Yeah, but what's the setting?
Flesh.
So what? Murder or cannibalism? Cannibalism. Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's tender is the flesh. The medium well, whatever. No. So it's I don't know. It just says when anybody asks me which one, I always bring out this one.
Is it inspired by a true story or anything?
No lah.
No.
But I think it has shades of, Solian green, shades of that inside it.
I see.
So I'm sorry lah. It's to me, I know it's asinine. I'm sorry about the example I gave.
No problem.
But I tell you, you want to be shocked, go and read.
How long did it take you to read it?
You will not put it down. This thing only.
I see.
God. Wow, Tender is the flesh.
Tender is the flesh.
Wow. And I'm not the only one. You go online, other people is also thought of that.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Bertha. So we'll put the links in the show notes. Always good to have you back. And the next few months are going to be very exciting.
Yeah, it will be.
I guess we can always have another sit down again.
Can. All right. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much.
I hope you watch, you see Chin and Chai.
Our
About Us video is
features
about
us.
you.
I saw. We are featured.
We are featured. We'll put a link to that in the show notes also.
All right.
Cool. And thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you all soon.